On today's episode of Beauty Behind the Brand, we have Avery Swartz with us about how AI is changing the marketing world, the power of Google reviews and email marketing, leaning into the human elements in terms of marketing strategies. And if you're a spa owner struggling with your marketing, this is definitely an episode you're going to want to listen to. Okay. Beautiful morning. I'm so excited to have this conversation with you, Avery. I know that we just met not that long ago, actually in person, which I can't say I've met actually a lot of our guests in person. So it's so nice to connect in person as well as online. I'm really, really thrilled to have you on and to be able to hear your story, kind of where you started your marketing journey to where you are today and hear it right from you. So excited. Thank you so much for coming on with us.
I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for inviting me. I have a very convoluted career path. It's been a wild ride. It's been a lot of fun. But I think one thing that the listeners probably need to know in order to put this into a bit of context is that I am 43 years old, which means I was born in 1980. And the reason why you need to know how old I am is because it will make sense when you think about the history of the internet and how that kind of aligns with my age. So, I was a child of the 80s when, I mean, technically that's when the internet kind of started, but it was in a very industrial or military sort of application at that point. So, like we didn't even have a computer in the house until I was, 8 or 9 years old. And then it was always the family computer. So I was a teenager, through the 80s and 90s when, dial-up internet was a thing. So that's important to contextualize because I wasn't someone who was in high school planning for a career in internet technology because when I was in high school, that wasn't really a thing. I couldn't say to my mom, hey, when I grow up, I want to be, a web programmer. And she'd be like, well, Avery, I don't really know what that means. That's not really a thing. Um, or to say like I'm going to be a social media content manager. She'd be like, that doesn't exist yet.
Mhm.
um, and so interestingly enough, now I know now that I'm 43 and I do have a daughter. She's 12 years old, and I think a lot about like what are the jobs that don't exist now that she could potentially have in the future. So it's kind of an interesting like full circle moment there. But when I was in my early 20s, late teens, early 20s, I actually have a fine arts background. I went to theater school, not to be an actor, although I am a bit of an extrovert. Um, I went to theater school to study the technical side of producing theater. I thought I would be a lighting designer because I
Wow.
really, really like art and design. And I also really like math and science. And I thought that was an interesting, kind of overlap to be a lighting designer. But it turns out I actually also really like business. And so when I was in theater school, I learned a bit about the business of putting on the arts and putting on performing arts. So I live in Toronto, Canada. And in my 20s, I worked for theater companies, mostly as a producer, as somebody that worked on like the business side of getting productions on stage. And then, to be completely honest with you, when I was 26 years old, I massively burnt out. The lifestyle was a lot of fun, but it was pretty bonkers in terms of, low pay, long hours, beautiful friendships and relationships with people, but it was also a bit of a toxic workplace in a lot of ways. So
Mhm.
I decided I was going to switch careers. I went back to school and I learned graphic design because again, I'm still so interested in art and design. Also, graphic design definitely has a bit of a technical component that has kind of been a through line through my career, art and design with also the technical side. Um, so I learned graphic design in the early days of web design and coding because this was in 2006. And that's when I was learning just like the basic building blocks of how to code the web. I found I really, really liked it. And I launched a web design studio where we were doing web design and a bit of coding. And I had some other people I worked with that were better coders than I was. But for those early years, I was coding websites and loving it. It was
Yeah.
so it just really tapped into both those parts of my brain. I could really think hard about the art and the design and the layout and the colors of what I didn't know these words at the time, but really it was brand marketing.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
and then I could totally geek out on writing the code and like putting it all together. Then as time went on, that was, oh gosh, what was that, like 16 years ago, 17, 14, I don't know. What is math? 15, let's say it was 15 or 16 years ago that I started doing that. And I branched out. I ended up also launching a second business that was a workshop and training company,
Cool.
where I realized that, there are so many people out there that want to know more about technology, but there weren't a lot of options for them in terms of where they could go to learn more, other than just, Googling stuff, or, going and doing, like a continuing education course at a
Mhm.
college or university. And I thought, there needs to be something a little bit more bite-sized. And I know now we have more options, but in, 2012,
Yeah.
when I launched my workshop company, there were not a lot of options.
No, and, like,
Um,
Instagram was just kinda coming out. There was, like, a lot of different things
exactly.
coming up for that creative side too.
Absolutely. It was a really interesting time for the web, when people could start to really, not just be consumers of the internet, but be creators on the internet as
Mhm.
well, which I love. And I love that idea of being able to give a little bit of knowledge and empower people to just have fun with it, and run and play. Um, I started this workshop company. It's called Camp Tech. It still exists today. And I thought it was going to be a small side business, and that my web studio was going to be the main thing. Turns out it was the exact opposite. The workshop company, grew like gangbusters, through, like, leading up to COVID. We had workshops happening across Canada. I had a location in Toronto, in Vancouver, in Ottawa, in some pop-up locations around Ontario as well, doing some stuff online, a lot of things in person. Um, COVID, I'll be completely honest with you, Nicole. COVID almost killed the company.
Mhm.
When we couldn't do in-person training anymore, that was a really hard shift. But we stayed alive and were able to move a lot of stuff online. And now we can do in-person again. So we're back to that mix of in-person and online training.
Mhm.
Um, and then I've also done some other things, alongside, building the workshop company. I did eventually shut down my web studio. I said
Okay.
I can't keep up with that as
Yeah.
well. That was too
Yeah.
much. But I was able to explore some other things that I'd wanted to do. I really wanted to take a lot of what I knew about the web and building a brand online, and I wanted to put it in a book. I know it seems very antiquated to think of, like a print book about the
Yeah.
internet. People would say to me, like, Avery, isn't this going to be obsolete the day it's published? But I think, no, it's not, because the fundamentals are there. So I wrote a book. It came out, oh my gosh, Nicole, it came out in March of 2020. It came out on March 10, 2020, like right, I think it was like within 48 hours of the pandemic being
Oh my
declared was
god.
when my book was launched. Um, so my book tour got canceled, but the book actually did really well. I think, a lot of people wanted it because they were scrambling to
Yes.
move to being online. It became an international bestseller. It's been translated into other languages. And then the other thing that I do that is still somewhat related, but also this is more just for fun. Like, I love this job. I do a little bit of media work. I'm the resident tech expert on CTV Your Morning, which is Canada's largest national broadcast morning television show. And on that show, I get to do all this really cool stuff where I get to test gadgets. I get to fly to different parts in the world where I'm invited to come and try things out. For example, everybody's been talking so much about the new headset that's coming from Apple, the Vision Pro. I was there when it was announced. I've already tried it. I was one of the people that got to have a demo. It is so cool. I cannot wait for it to come out. It is so cool.
Awesome.
So I get to also just kind of play with stuff. So I guess, the big kind of overarching vibe of my career is that I love this mix of art and science.
Mhm.
And I think if I had to say what is my job in one word or two words, I would say I'm an interpreter,
Oh, I love that.
or I'm a communicator. Like,
Mhm.
pretty much what I do in all of my work, whether I'm teaching workshops or writing books or appearing on television, what I'm really trying to do is interpret technology and bridge that tech gap for non-technical people.
I
Make it
love
just a little bit easier for them to understand.
that. Mhm.
Because I love people, and I love technology. So I want to, just keep it all together.
Peaches, word of mouth marketing for Squarespace stores. Make more sales with Peaches Squarespace plugins. Get the #1 referral and affiliate software for your e commerce store. Everyone wants to boost sales and reach new customers via affiliates or referrals, marketing programs. Word of mouth marketing is the best and most powerful, low cost, and way to grow your business online organically. All you need to do is get the right software to help your customers talk about you and influencers promote you and reward them for doing so. I will put my referral link down below.
Well, and having that book, like you said, the perfect time because people were scrambling and people who were not tech savvy are going to go to a book and to get answers. And I always do love to have a real book in hand. Like I do have a Kindle, I'm not going to lie, I do have one, but at the same time, it's good to have a book. You can highlight, you can put notes. It's easier to go back and review too.
I
Um,
love print books.
yeah,
Absolutely.
exactly. And I think for that like generational gap too, like when I actually saw you in Muskoka when you had your event for the YWCA, it was great because even the group we were sitting with at the table, I was one of the younger ones at the table, but it was almost like I felt like I was like understanding more information that you were giving out during your presentation, and then they were also taking something from that presentation. So it was so interesting brainstorming after as a group, all the different key points that were touched. And we were actually all either spa or hair like services that were sitting at that table. And that's what I love about this podcast is getting answers for our listeners when it comes to different parts within their business. And before this call, we were talking about that, how the aesthetics or the beauty world is service as well as product. There's so many different touch points when it comes to marketing, and it can kind of be overwhelming because you want to be on all these platforms, you want to be able to get the right content to people. But something that really resonated with me during your presentation was thinking of yourself as the client versus the actual like owner of your business. So if that could be something you kind of elaborate on for our listeners to listen to what I mean when I explain that.
Sure, sure. And to any listener that is the founder of a business or is the owner operator of a business, first of all, congratulations. I think that that is one of the coolest things you can ever do in your life. So that's great. Also, I will let you know I am one of you. I am also a business owner, and so I come to this subject not completely just from a like an intellectual or a theoretical standpoint.
Yeah.
I also like I deeply feel this in my bones,
Yeah.
and I am guilty of this transgression as much as anybody else is. But it is that when you are, you know, the owner of the business, it can be really, really easy to fall into assumptions
Mhm.
about what your customer or client wants, what they need, why they take the actions that they take, what they like, what they will and won't buy. We it's kind of it's natural that we default to the assumptions either based on our personal preference
Yes.
or we assume that we know our customers so well that we know exactly what they need and what they want. And um, so, like I said, as a business owner myself, I am so guilty of this. I feel that instinct of being like, oh,
Mhm.
yeah, I know what people want. Of course I do. It's what I would want.
Yes.
But then when I think as a marketer and when I work with other companies, I can see that, you know, at least 80 to 90% of the time, you're probably wrong.
Mhm.
And I say that with as much respect as I can. Um, so the best way to get around that is I say, you know, to really, really know your customer and to not make those assumptions. And the best way to know your customer, like you don't have to do, you know, piles of surveys and focus groups and all kinds of really complicated stuff. Instead, I just say, talk to your customers and
Mhm.
talk to them, your customers, your clients, talk to them all the time. When you really, really get to know them, you know, for example, I was, you know, just earlier this week, I was getting some color work done on my hair, and I was in the chair with my colors for 5 hours, and we just talk through the whole thing. And I think by the end of it, she probably had a really good idea of who I am, what my life is like, you know, why I make the decisions that I do. So later, you know, I would hope that she, when she's making decisions about, you know, what she posts on social media and how she composes the captions, and even when she does things like when she chooses the pricing for her
Yes.
services, or when she's ordering, you know, new products for the line of tools or the line of you know conditioner, shampoo, etc., that she is thinking about everything that she knows about me from, having me in the chair for 5 hours and just
Yeah,
talking, talking, talking.
definitely. Definitely. And kind of niching down to like what type of client you want. Like I'm assuming you're a fabulous client anyways, Avery, but like figuring out, right, what kind of clientele you want and niching into that. Because I think that's the thing that I notice and it's hard because I want to please everyone. And I feel like a lot of
Yes.
other business owners are the same, where they want to be fair with their pricing. They want to be fair with like even their accessibility or different color options that they may have. But I think that's what makes you kind of more of that like exclusive brand or that exclusive place to be is like what's making you stand out. Is there certain things like I know when we were at the presentation, you also mentioned about Google in the sense of the location and like you're
Mm.
making that, is it location that people are looking for? Is it the name in your Google business? Like what are some of the things that people should be looking at when it comes to kind of getting those VIP clients that they're wanting at their location?
Really what we're getting to the heart of is the question of what does your ideal clientele, what do they value?
Okay.
And again, it's a bit of a trap to just assume that people make value decisions and purchasing decisions and booking decisions based solely on price. I think that there's probably a lot of other value indicators that
Mhm.
people are potentially evaluating when they're thinking about who they want to book with. And I think, especially in the aesthetics and in the beauty industry, that is where people are looking, for things that are a little bit harder to measure. They're probably looking for a bit of status, for a little bit of prestige.
Mhm.
They're probably looking for pampering, a really wonderful experience. They are probably really looking at reviews. They're probably there's a lot of word of mouth play here. But then, yes, I'm sure they are looking at price, but they're looking at also maybe location, convenience, also, even just the speed of, how quickly can somebody book in? If you're booked up for 3 months, well, that does say that you are a bit exclusive and hard to get, but also at the same time, it might turn certain people off. So,
Yeah, definitely.
trying to play with all of those different interpretations of value. And one of the best ways you can find what people value is to ask them. But you do not ask them the question, what do you value when you're looking for, a manicure, or what do you value when you're looking for a lash tint, or whatever they might be, in the market for. Instead, you ask them, what did you consider when you were searching this service or this product that you were looking for? What did you consider, and what were your priorities when you were looking? And
Mhm.
so that's when they're going to tell you. That's when they're going to tell you things like, well, I know I needed to have an appointment that would be done by 3 p.m. because I've got to get my kids after that. Or they would say, and traffic's really bad in town this summer. So I really wanted to find a place that was relatively nearby so I wouldn't have to, go across the highway where all the traffic is taking place. Like,
Yeah.
if you ask them about what their priorities were when they were making their decision and when they were doing research, that's the question that will really tell you what people value. And
That's
of course,
funny. Yeah.
price will probably come up in that conversation as well, but I'd be willing to bet it's probably not the only thing.
Yeah, that's very true. Because even I'm working reception currently, and it's been great for me as, like, the business owner because especially having seen you in person and had the presentation, I'm, like, now, like, thinking or I'm, like, "How did you find us?" Like, really kinda asking clients, how did they find us? A lot of clients, to be honest, when they are booking online, they aren't asking price, they're just asking availability of when they can get in next. So, yeah, really listening and being one-on-one and being real with your clients, that was something else that I loved about what you were saying was just have a conversation. It does not need to be confusing or techie in the sense of having all these like surveys and screening people and just having those real conversations with them because that's where I think that whole touch like during pandemic we didn't talk to anyone in person for how long and people just crave that in-person connection and just even that relaxation of having a massage or having a facial in the sense of being able to get off technology and relax and be I always say we're kind of an escape from reality. And that's what I think a spa is to a lot of people is that
Absolutely.
relaxation moment that they can have in the middle of the day or whenever's convenient for them.
Absolutely. And I have many friends who are marketers, and I love them, and I love all of the different perspectives that they bring to marketing. And I have a few friends that practice what is known as data-driven marketing, which
Okay.
means that they are often trying to quantify like everything. Like
Mhm.
they're trying to find specific data points that align with customer behavior and that align with purchasing decisions, et cetera. And I see what they're doing, and I think there is some value in that, but there is also a bit of an instinct or a drive or a desire to want to quantify everything, and I think that some things just are not quantifiable.
Are you thinking about starting a podcast? I remember when we launched Beauty Behind the Brand, it was just an idea at first, and I didn't know where to start or what platform to use or how to streamline everything. Buzzsprout has made our lives so much easier, and I want to share some free info about it. Save $20 on your second invoice with Buzzsprout, and they will make your life so much easier. All you really need to do is upload, chat, and interview your guests, and Buzzsprout does the rest.
Some
True.
things are more on the qualification or the quality side as opposed to the quantified side, and especially like you said, Nicole, when we're talking about something that is more human. And this is
Yeah.
why, oh my gosh, we haven't even talked about artificial intelligence, but
Oh
that
my
like that
gosh.
is like a huge part of marketing right now is people trying to automate and use artificial intelligence in
Yes.
their marketing communications. But the beautiful thing about, so much of the aesthetics industry and the beauty industry is that it's human.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
I love going to see people because I know them and we have that human relationship. So there can be a bit of a tendency when, especially when you're reading about marketing and some blog or a business journal or something where
Mhm.
they get really driven by marketing language, by jargon, by business language, and it's all about trying to quantify things, and it's data, data, data. I think data has its place. I like it very much, but do not ignore the human side and what I think you can know and what you can learn just by having a very human conversation with people.
Yeah, and being real like that. And yeah, actually, I had asked you the question about ChatGPT and AI during the
Yeah.
presentation, and I loved your answer because it's like it's gonna know the difference between a real person and a fake person when it comes to Google, for example. But I also
Mhm.
feel like our audience is gonna even know. Like, I, I'm not that like literal when it comes to talking to my clients and being real and being our fun atmosphere that we are at the spa. So making sure that our when they're coming into the spa versus looking at us online, it is very much the same. Because I feel like that's something where Google, for example, people are looking online and they're seeing all these beautiful pictures, and then they go into the salon. It's happened to me actually before booking to go somewhere else to get my nails done, and I'm like, oh, this is not what was shown on Google. So what's some of the points you have in the sense of having that kind of like that um, real life versus reality and tech behind it of what kind of merits them together?
Sure. So, I mean, again, anecdotally, I know when I'm looking around for, a place to get a pedicure or something,
Mhm.
I will look both on social media and also inside Google reviews.
Sure.
And
Mhm.
I'm looking at pictures and I'm looking at reviews. And also I do this when I'm shopping for products. If I'm on Sephora or
Okay.
well.ca, or the Shoppers Drug Mart, and I guess for the American listeners, I guess it would be like Ulta, Sephora again, Target, what have you.
Mhm.
Um, I have a bit of a filter myself that I will immediately filter out either just in my brain or if I have the ability to click a
Yeah.
filter in the system, I will filter out anything that was posted by the owner. And so
Oh,
I'm so sorry to my friends that are the owners. I'm not saying you should stop, posting beautiful photos of your stuff. But as
mhm.
someone that's a consumer, I filter out the stuff that was posted by the owner for that exact same reason that you just said, Nicole, that sometimes I'm like, oh, they could just be lying, or that could be an old
Yeah.
photo
Yeah.
or something. So I look for the photos and the reviews that were contributed by real customers,
Mhm.
and then I'm kind of reading between the lines of like, oh, were they incentivized in some way? But I love to see pictures from real people. So if you are the owner of the business, you can try and push on that little bit. So this is where you can encourage people to to leave a review, to take a photo. And you can do it in some interesting ways. I've literally been in a salon where I've seen little signs with a QR code that says, please leave us a review. And I think that works a bit, but again, I'm such a fan of leaning on the human element here.
Mhm.
Without being weird and pushy and pressuring people too much and making them uncomfortable. But especially if you are a smaller business, if you're an independent business, you're not part of a massive international conglomerate, you have this beautiful relationship with your customers and your clients. And you can say, you know what? Hey, we're a small business. The last few years have been really hard on us. And we've learned that having online reviews with a photo from real people, it makes a huge difference to our business. If
Mhm.
you enjoyed your service today, or even if you didn't, would you mind please going online? Here's the link. I mean, you want to make it as easy for
Bit
them as
efficient.
you possibly can. It'll be like, could you please post a Google review? And if you're open to including a photo, um, because I think most people do want to help. I think most people want to help small business. They're
Mhm.
just not thinking about it. So
Yes.
if you remind them, this would be huge for us. And then, hopefully then they'll go online. And when they do, my business owner friends, make
Again,
sure
it's
you're
just it's
responding.
leaning into
You
the
want to respond as
human
quickly as you
side
can. So
because
when you get
that's
that
that's one of the
notification
beautiful things about
inside
this
Google My
industry that a
Business,
lot of
which is
industries are
where people
jealous
can
of.
leave reviews and
There's a
photos
lot of
on
industries that
Google,
don't
or
have
if you
that
get
type
those
of connection
notifications on with their
with
Mhm.
customers and
Instagram
clients,
or
or
use it.
That's so
inside
smart.
Yelp
And
or
it's one of
whatever it is you
like
might
we
be
keep saying,
using,
that human
make sure
connection,
you
because we are talking about
reply and say,
marketing like
thank you
on the internet
so
and all of
much.
that, but
It
I
was
feel like
such
you
a
have
pleasure
to
seeing
know,
you
like we
today.
keep
Can't wait to
saying,
see you
your
again. And
clients
that's just
when
going to
it
keep
comes to
all
that
those
marketing
good
side.
feels
And
going.
even for ourselves,
Mhm,
we've
definitely.
kind
And
of
oh my
started
gosh,
to follow more of like
just how you
even
worded that, I'm like, okay,
education.
I will
I
write you
feel
a
like that's
review,
something we
Avery.
were
Like, tell me
lacking. We were
when and
making
where.
our feed so aesthetic, but then we weren't really having, like, maybe in the caption we would have something that's educational, but even our reels, I want to be able to educate with even a voiceover or even talking in front of the camera, versus how often is someone actually reading the full caption? They're going to click a video, and that's going to be a little bit more transparent for them to understand what's going on than reading it. What are some tips and tricks you would have for beauty industry to kind of get into that tech side, to start getting more, maybe let's say, well, keeping your current clients are always super important because it's harder, like you said, bringing in new clients every time. But what are some of the things you would suggest in keeping clients you have now, as well as bringing some new ones in? Kind of going into the summer, I guess, months would be kind of a good way to niche it down.
Absolutely. So whether you are in a service-based side of things, or you're product-based, or you're both, the one tip I have that is pretty much for almost any business is I
Mhm.
really, really want you to start building an email list. I want you to build out an email and a permission-based email list. So this isn't just taking your client database and dumping it into MailChimp. This is about making sure you have permission from people to email to them. And the reason why I love email so much is because it is a really nice thing to run alongside social media. And it's relatively cost efficient, time efficient, etc. So what we've seen happen with social media in the last couple of years, and if you think about just you personally, how you use social media, we've seen Facebook, it got big, and it's not dead. It's by no means dead, but it has kind of plateaued out. Instagram, it's getting harder and harder to get engagement on Instagram. TikTok, we've seen that rise.
Yeah.
It will eventually get harder and harder to reach people on TikTok as well. And so the moral of this story is that social media changes and the landscape changes over the years, and there will be something new that will be on the horizon that will come, and you are going to have to hustle hard to build a following on that new platform. And yes, this is exhausting, of course.
Just
But
when you
if you're
figure it out, a new one comes.
right, but if you're doing email marketing along the same thing, like email marketing can be low and slow and can be kind of carried through everything you do. So what I encourage you to do is go on social media and say things like, we have something really exclusive that's only going to be sent out to our email list.
Love
Treat
that.
your email subscribers like your most valuable audience, because they are.
Mm.
Give them something that you will not be giving out on social media. And it can be small. It can be a special a tip. It can be a behind the scenes thing. Like some of the best content that works well on the internet, whether you're on social media or email marketing, like you said, Nicole, educational content
Mhm.
right up there. So if we are talking about short videos or tips for how to extend the life of your pedicure this summer, how to keep your hair from turning green if you're swimming in a chlorinated
Yeah.
pool, how you can do, a 5-second massage yourself with a tennis ball, or, whatever it might be, just little tiny tidbits. You don't have to be, telling people everything under the sun, but just little educational bits. And then, of course, entertainment. The videos that are
Mhm.
funny are definitely the ones that tend to perform the best. So you can jump on trends and memes that way. But if you have that educational content in your social media and definitely in your emails that are going out as well, um, emails are one of those things that when people see an email from you in your inbox, they remember that you exist,
Mm.
because people's lives are busy, especially in the summer. They're like, "Oh, yeah, I saw an email from you recently." It kind of subliminally goes into the back of your mind.
Yeah.
And then you're like, "Oh, right. I should book, my appointment." And then you can also, in those emails, in your social media posts, that's where you can encourage referrals. You can encourage people to come in. You can encourage, like, what could be more fun? Come to the salon, with your daughter, et cetera, et cetera. Whatever you're kind of pushing on that idea of word of mouth, or coming in and doing services together. And
Mhm.
then if you really want to go so far, and you can experiment with this. I love experimenting with things in marketing.
Yeah.
You could look into something that's called affiliate marketing or referral marketing, which is the
Okay.
idea of some sort of a rewards process of, either people can collect like loyalty points for coming and booking with you, and or you can do a rewards program where it is encouraging people to, get a certain dollar amount off, or a percentage off, or a special bonus when they book, if they refer their friends. And then if their friend books, then they also get, and you don't always have to give a discount. Sometimes, we're very concerned about knocking down the price of our products, and devaluing them a bit if
Mhm.
we're devaluing the price of our services. So maybe the offer isn't 15% off or $10 off. Maybe it's you get a bonus 10-minute scalp massage or
Yeah, that's a
something.
brilliant
So
idea.
it's an add-on instead of a take off.
Mhm. We did that the hard way during COVID when we started back open. We did these loyalty cards that were like overly generous. And then this year, I was like, okay, we got to get rid of these. Plus, my bookkeeper was like, what the hell are you doing? Like, you're saving your business. So we ended up like just cold turkey. We stopped doing them. And to be honest, we only had one client who complained. And I'm like, if we kept this going, because you do have to, obviously, to your point, you have to make sure you're still making money. You can't always give a discount to police clients. Plus, you don't want to be known as that like discount spa. It's always
Exactly.
like kind of bringing things down in the price point. But that's such a smart idea of having that add on. So they're still coming in for that service, but it's like amping it up as like a special service that just you get when using that referral.
Yeah, yeah. I love treating people, and that of course it aligns with the brand, with the idea of it being generous and exclusive
Mhm.
and niche, and that kind of higher level of status. It's like, oh, when I go here, they treat me right.
That's
I
awesome.
love that vibe, with customers and clients.
Amazing. Now, to kind of end that note on just like the feel good vibe, where can everyone find you, Avery? What's the best way for people to reach out to you and also to find your book too?
Sure. So my name is Avery Swartz, not Schwartz. So cut the C and the H. It's just Swartz. But if you like, I own that name online. It's everywhere. So I'm hyper online on social media. You can find me everywhere at Avery Swartz. If you just Google me, you'll find all kinds of all my stuff, all my articles, all my TV appearances, all of that. And then my book is called See You on the Internet: Building Your Small Business with Digital Marketing. And my book is available in paperback, in ebook, and in audiobook format. It's available wherever books are sold, and also in most libraries. So support your local library. You can probably even get it there.
Perfect. And it's your voice reading the book too.
It
Is
is.
yeah.
It's true. So if you want 5 hours of Avery in your ears, then it's available on Audible, and I think Kobo Audio, and a few other. I don't know. Spotify just started doing audiobooks, and I
Oh,
don't
smart.
think my book is on Spotify, but I know for sure that it's on Audible.
Okay, great. Because it's actually now that I'm reading it, I hear your voice because
Oh,
it's
I
you
love that.
saying it. Like, as I'm reading it, I'm like, "Okay, I know her voice." Because not very often you actually know the author and their voice and, like, about them. So I'm, like, reading it, I'm like, "Oh, yeah, this is so Avery." Like, personalities throughout it, which I love. It's not like that black and white, very, like, tech driven. It's very personable and easy to read, very easy to understand as well. So I think everyone will love that. Thank you so much for popping on today, and I've learned so much. I'm so excited to work on my marketing as well.
Thanks, Nicole.
Thank you.